We were talking about composite and inverse functions, and in the video before you may see how to find the composite of the functions with an example fx and gx. And remember to explore the domain first. As we see it here, find the domain of the fx, gx, and finally the composite should take into account the conditions for the domain of gx first, because it's the composite, then the conditions of fx, and finally the conditions when you have the composite. Okay, that's why in this we have three options. But in this video we're going to search for the inverse of this function fx, f composite gx, that we're gonna call it hx, that is negative 1 over x plus 24, and we're going to find the inverse. So just to remember, what are the steps to find the inverse? The steps to find the inverse: first we're going to change the notation of function notation to y notation. Okay, why? Because this is the way that it's easier to use algebra. The second step is to change x and y. Okay, interchange x and y. The third step is to solve for y. The next step is obviously always check the domain. And 5, check that the composite h and the inverse in this case should be x, because it's a reflection about the x-axis. Now if you want more information about the steps on how to do it, there's another video about that. Here we're gonna do it quickly. So the inverse of hx first, so we're going to change the notation. Y equals minus 1 over x plus 24. Second step, interchange. So let me use blue. So interchange means x equals minus 1 over y plus 24. Next step, solve for y. So to solve for y, this is a rational equation. There's a video about how to solve rational equations. I'm going to multiply by the LCD. The LCD is y plus 24. So y plus 24 times x equals negative 1. And as I need to solve for y, let me divide by x to have y plus 24 equals minus 1 over x. And now solve for y is easy, just subtract by 24, minus 1 over x, minus 24. And if you prefer to have as the form of radical expressions, of rational expressions, we just need to add as a rational expression by multiplying for x, okay, to have common denominator, and we will have y equals minus 1 minus 24x over x, and finally the inverse will be, let's factor the negative sign, minus 1 plus 24x over x. Okay, so we have the inverse. We haven't checked if the inverse is right or not, but this is the inverse. So this is the inverse. Now we find the inverse, that is minus 1 plus 24x over x. Look at that here, the domain of this, it says that I cannot include any number that is equal to 0, okay, because of the denominator. But if we see hx, the domain of hx does not include 0. Oh, okay, it includes 0, but this is the domain of this function. Okay, so if we do the graph, there's not including x equals 0. Now, let's check h composite, the inverse of h. Okay, remember that the composite is to set, instead of x here, we're going to set the inverse. So minus 1 over, and instead of x, I'm going to write this, that is 1 plus 24x over x. Okay, this could be solved by a complex fraction. So how to solve a complex fraction? Multiply numerator and denominator by the LCD, that in this case is x, so times x times x, x times 1 is x, x times this stuff is going to simplify the denominator, 1 plus 24x. Okay, I think that there's a negative sign here. I forgot this negative sign. Let me erase. Okay. Sometimes you forget the negative signs. So it means that the negative sign stays here. Plus 24x. So h composite, the inverse, is going to be minus x over minus 1 minus 24x plus 24x. So goodbye. So minus x over minus 1, that actually is x. Okay, so the inverse is right. So the inverse of h is negative 1 plus 24x over x. That will be the inverse of the function. We apply the steps very quickly, and if you want to see like the step by step without like more carefully, you can see another video that I have about this. And I hope that you enjoy this, and tell me comments, share, or tell me how we can improve the explanation about the inverse and the composite of a function. Okay, see you in the next video. Goodbye, have fun.